So hello everyone, and this is the second lecture of our Python beginner tutorials. And in our previous lecture we saw some print functions, how to print, and then some variables, then what are comments, what are multi-line comments, as you can see here, then some assignment operators such as plus, minus, times and divide. Obviously we'll look some more things in detail, but yeah, this was the first introductory lecture. Doesn't mean that I'm not gonna again emphasize on the assignment operator or the strings or variables or data types, okay, but this was just a you can say a beginning orientation of our methods. So these are various data types such as integer, float, string, lists, and I also talked about that we'll continue our list and we'll more emphasize on it and trace it, how to get only one element out of it and more things. No need to worry about that, we'll look everything in detail. But yeah, let's begin our second lecture first, and let me comment this also out so that nothing remains in our, and let me run it and check it that yeah, so our console is clear. So now we'll write some code and see what can be done. So now first I want to tell you that in our mobile phones, right, in our mobile phones we have calculators. So we use it in our day-to-day lives and for calculating stuffs. But the thing is that how is that calculator working, right? That is an app, that is a different Android development part, but what is the logic behind it? So let's try to code it in a simpler version first, then we'll take the input from the user as well, and we'll see what is the input from the user, right? So first of all, let's again take a variable, right? If you remember it correctly, variables were like a container which were storing some values, right? So let's say x is equal to 7, I do, and then let's say y is equal to 30, let's say, okay. So now there is a naming convention for variables also. We'll look further that how to name the variables, though in previous lecture I told you that for now only remember that you cannot start variables from numbers like this 1 2 3 y. So you see red, let me zoom it out. So you see red squibbly lines, these indicate that it is an error, and it will obviously throw an error as it is not allowed. So not worrying about that, just currently focus on this x is 7 and this y is 3, just like in mathematics, right? So if I print x plus y, so there's no doubt 20 will get printed, right? You see 20 got printed, like 13 plus 7, no big deal in that. But the thing is, now I can, let's say you'll also be able to recognize the concept of variables, like why it is useful also, right? So let me write it. This is x minus y, this is x times y, means basically x multiplied by y, and this is x divided by y. So let's see what output comes. Obviously means the arithmetic operations will get carried on and you will get the following results as you can see in the console screen. So what is it? X plus y 20 we saw, x minus y, so 7 minus 13 is minus 6, x into y, 13 into 7 is 91, you can check it out, and x divided by y, that is 7 divided by 13, is nothing else but 0.53 blah blah blah. Now the thing is that you see a basic calculator is constructed. Obviously in calculators we have many more operations also, like log is also there, exponential is also there, but the thing is plus minus times divide is there. But now you saw that we were printing the summation and the subtraction, but what if I want to give the input? Means in calculator from the phone, we have different phones, we have different calculators, right? So we are not entering only this 7 and this 13 here on the screen, right? Obviously no one is entering only 7 and 13. There are many sample inputs which can be given by the user and which is given by the user. So how to deal with that? For that we'll take the input from the user, right? Just like we give input to the calculator, 7 plus 13 like that. So we have to take the input from our program and then process it and then calculate the various arithmetic operations. Now how to do that, and before coming to that, let me arrange some things in the sense, let me make it a more beautiful so that you understand the code, that this is summation and this is subtraction, multiplication and division. If you remember in the previous lecture, this print hello world, if I want to display any string, this string data type, right? If you remember it correctly, this string data type, I love Lord Krishna, which are written in double quotations, okay, right? So these are the string data type. Now, so I can here also write it, right? So I can write the summation is. So now let me zoom it a bit. So now this, the summation is and this colon, all are inside the double quotations, means they are a part of string, means see it is green also, right? So I'm using pie chart, so green indicates that it is a string, whatever. And then I wrote a comma, okay, and after a comma I'm using x plus y. Remember, this x plus y should not be in this double quotations, because then it would be considered as a string and not as a variable. That is why we use variables, right? So that we can output it on the console screen, just like this. See, x is equal to 9, then print x plus 5, x plus 6, whatever we did up till now. Similarly x plus 5, but the thing is that now it will print the summation is colon and then x plus y. So if I run only this particular thing, you see the summation is colon and then 20. So similarly we can copy paste it in the next print statements as well, and we'll write times, divide, subtraction and all that stuff. So let's say the difference is, okay, and here is the multiplication, let's say multiplication is, and here division is, right? Let me give some spaces so that you can see it clearly. See what I did, the division is, this is a string which will be displayed here, then x divided by y, the operation will be carried out and it will be written here. So if I run it, see the summation is 20, the difference is minus 6, the multiplication is 91, the division is this thing. Now, and you see these operations are correct also. 7 plus this is 20, this is minus 6, this is 91 and this is 0.5, whatever. Now I was talking about that no user is inputting only 7 and 13, right? We are all with different inputs, so how to deal with that? Now let me remove this 7 and 13. Now for taking the input, first of all I would like you to introduce to the concept of a function known as input only. Python is so easy that for taking input from the user we use input simply. Now if I write input, it gives me suggestion also, this PyCharm ID. So if I hit enter it will complete, but for you I'll write it completely so that you don't miss out anything. So I'll write input and then opening and closing parenthesis, right? So this means now I will get an input. Similarly here input, but now any input which the user will give is stored in x, and any input which will be given here will be stored in y. But I know some questions are there in your mind, how will we get input and all that, we'll see when we run the code. But I would like to explain you one more thing, is the concept of typecasting. Just listen it for 1 minute, because typecasting is a detailed topic and we'll look at later also. Here it is required because actually what happens, this input which I have written here, right, it takes the input in the form of string. String here is this green thing, right? So this only input indicates that x will be a string, means I have to write some things and that thing will get stored in x, but I want an integer, right, for the operations to be followed, or a float or whatever, for the numbers basically. So this input is only string. So the concept of typecasting says that if I write something like this, int stands for integer, and if I close it inside the int. See, basically this int, then opening and closing parenthesis, which is highlighted by yellow, and then inside it I have input. Now what will happen, as I mentioned, this input is in the form of string, right? So now it will be in the form of integer. Okay, so similarly here also, just observe it carefully. I'm writing int and then closing inside the int, and int stands for integer. I have shown you here also, right? This is the integer data type, it is a float data type, and this is a string data type. So integer is int, short form is int, like that. And short form for str similarly is str. Sorry, I misspelled it. Means short form for string is str. Okay, and short form for integer is int. Okay, and float is so directly the name in the programming world, so nothing to worry about that. Now the thing is, now whatever input will give will be converted, or in programming world we say typecasted. Typecasted means converted from one data type to another. Okay, we'll look at in later also, but for now you just understand this thing, that this input, which is by default in the form of string, it will be converted to the integer data type. Okay, so now let's run the code and see what actually happens. How will we get input? So see, if I run it, right, nothing will get printed. So you might wonder that the code is wrong, right? But no, actually it is asking me for the input here. See, actually it executes the code from the top, right? So at the top, x is equal to this input, y is equal to this input. So it is wanting an input. My console wants some input. See, it is blinking the cursor, right? So now if I give any number like 45, and if I hit enter, still nothing will get printed. Why? Because now I have to give input to the y, means whatever input I will give will get stored in y variable. So whatever you desire, right? Let's say maybe 23. So now if I hit enter, you see all the statements got executed, and x and y can be variables. So see, the summation is 68. You can check it out. 45 plus 23 is 68. And if you don't mind, I will show you an easy number, right? So we can rectify it. So let's take 10 and 5, right? So see, the summation is 15. So 10 plus 5 is 15. The difference is 10 minus 5, 5. The multiplication 10 into 5, 50. And the division 10 divided by 5, 2. You can run for another input, any. See, I'm typing it random. I don't know what did I type, but okay. So I typed 65 and 37. So the summation is this, difference is this, multiplication is this, and the division is this, 1 point something something something. Now you see, this is how like that is the logic behind a calculator. Means you might wonder, we have not made an actual calculator which you have in our phones, the application, that is not that, but you see the logic behind it. Only I have entered two numbers, which can be anything. Means if I give the code to you, you can input any numbers in your console, and then it will give you the sum, difference, multiplication and division. So see, that is the actually power of coding. Means I have written the logic one time, and now I can use it for my entire life to calculate certain things. So that was the logic behind a calculator. I have taught you about mod, I guess. Yes, I have taught about you the modulo operator in the previous lecture as well. So if you remember it correctly, it gives the remainder of the two operations. Means 6 modulo 3, means if I divide 6 and 3, then whatever remainder I'll get will be stored in x. So 6 is perfectly divisible by 3, so the remainder is 0. So we got 0 here. So that is why we can the modulo, or you can say remainder, is x percentage. So we have added one more functionality to our program, that is now it can give the remainder as well. So if I run it again and give two numbers, let's say let me give you 7 and 3. 7 and 3. So now you see the summation is 10. means 7 plus 3 10, 7 minus 3 4, 7 into 3 21, division is 7 divided by 3, that is 2.333. Now see, the modulo or remainder is 1. How it is 1? Because 3 2s are 6 and 1 is the remainder, right? What did I take? 7 modulo 3, right? 7 modulo 3, which means if I divide 7 by 3, so you see 3 2s are 6, 3 2s are 6, and what is the remainder? 1. 7 minus 6. So what should be the output of 7 modulo 3? It should be 1, right? So did we get 1 there? Yes, we indeed got, which means it is our right, like our program is right. So that is how you can build a basic simple calculator, right? Now I would like to talk about some typecasting more. Just a second. Yeah, typecasting more. So if you remember the concept of data types, right? So first of all, let me comment this out. You can take a screenshot. I hope you have taken, and I'll comment it out. If you have not, you can go back and obviously take the screenshot. And what I was telling, yeah, data types, right? So we have studied integer, float, and all that stuff. Now just let me check if nothing is, yeah, so nothing gets printed. Now if I give x is equal to 5 simply, and if I print, just be careful, right? If I tell type of, okay, type of x, of means not write off here, type, then bracket, then x. Okay, so it will return me an int. Let's check it for ourselves and we'll tell you what is that. See, it is printing class int. What does that mean? If you remember, I have told you this int stands for integer. Where is it? Here. Int stands for integer. So x is equal to 5. 5 is an integer. So x is a variable which is of type integer. So that is why we have a function known as type only, which is, see, be careful while hearing, and what I told, that x is a variable of type integer. So how do you find the type of x? Simply by type x, like this, like we saw it in the input, right? Python is that easy. So we got a class integer. Now if I write 5.45, let's say, and now if I hit enter, you see it says class float. If you remember what was float, it was a decimal. Where is it? Yeah, see here, y is equal to 6.432, which is a decimal, but it is known as a float in our programming world. So see, x is equal to 5.45, and now x is a type which is a float or a decimal. So see, class float. Now if I write Krishna, and if I hit enter, what should come? Try it out for yourself. So it should print string, right? Because it is a string, and short form for string was str. Where was it? See here, string. So if I run it, you will get class str. See, class str, simply. So you can remember one more method, that is type of x. No need to memorize it. You will get you'll get enhanced with practice. Now the thing is to convert that particular things. Now if I tell you, very interesting question, right? Be very careful. If I give you, let's see who all can answer. Like, I cannot hear your answers obviously, but okay, no problem. Now if I write x plus y, okay, what do you think will be the output? Means x is 5 simply and y is 10. So what is x plus 5? You have known it, right? So if you answer the answer is 15, so you are wrong. No need to get demotivated. That is on purpose, that I want you to be wrong so that you can learn the concept. So the output is 510 and not 15. You will tell what is it? We have made a calculator also, x plus y, and it was giving the correct calculation. X is equal to 9, 9 plus 5, everything was correct. But now why is it not giving 15 here and 510? The thing is about the data types. Means I have written this 5 in double quotations and 10 inside this double quotations, right? So it is no longer an integer, right? It is a string data type. And basically what happened, why 510 also? Because 5 and 10 means two strings got concatenated with each other. Concatenated means got together, you can say. So you see in when we were kids, there was a joke, what is 1 plus 1? So when someone said 2, we were like, no, 1 plus 1 is 11 because 1 and 1, right? Similarly, this joke here. So 5 plus 10 is nothing else but 510. Why? Because it got together or concatenated. Why? Because it is a string and not a integer. But if I remove this double quotations, then it should print 15, and it will print 15. See, because now it is an integer, right? So that was a question to confuse you. If you give right answer 510, then congratulations. If you didn't, it's okay. That was for learning purpose. But does that means if I do x minus y, right? So it will give me minus 5, right? But what if I again do the double quotations? Now what will be the output? So x plus y was like 510, it concatenated. So what will be x minus y? Actually it will give me an error. Why it will give me an error? Because I cannot form arithmetic operations with the string data type. Actually that was a coincidence that 5 plus 10 didn't give me an error because it was meant to be concatenated, right? But x minus y will give me an error. See, it gave me an error. And see, unsupported operand type for minus, str and str. See, str means string and it is an unsupported operand, right? Means minus cannot be used with our string. But we used plus, and this plus is not actually summing it up, right? This is actually concatenating two strings like 512. For suppose if I write hi, the whatever, like good morning, it is evening actually, but never mind, good morning, and here I write just a second, I am Prakhar. So now if I run it, see, it got concatenated, hi comma good morning, I am Prakhar. So that is why the concept of string in concatenation is used, right? Actually if you observe it carefully, I have given a space here so that this space is here, so because in concatenation what happens, it gets stick together. How? If I run it, see, good morning and I are joined, so that is why you can give space here or here, whatever, that is a part of decoration. I will not dive deep into that, but the concept of data types was clear to you, right? Now all this concept was for the concept of typecasting. So what is typecasting? We saw something here, int, then inside input and whatever. What was it? If I write 5 and if I write 10 here, so it will give me 5 and 10, right? Let me take 7, not 2 digits, so that, so you see, it will give me 57 because it is a string, right? Don't do 5 plus 7. But if I typecast it means convert this data type to some another data type. So what is this data type? It is a string. So if I write int and then cover it inside like we did it in the input, similarly here int and then inside it, see what did it give me now? It gave me a proper 5 plus 7, that is 12. But when int was not there, it gave me 57. Basically it concatenated. So you got some feel what is a typecasting, because it was a string and this string was converted to integer because I have written this particular string inside the int, and similarly with the 7. So now this 5, which was a string, got converted into an integer. And if you do not believe me, I have told you the concept of type as well, right? So if I write type of x now, so let's see what will happen. See, now it is telling int, though the 5 was written inside quotations, still it is giving me the type int. Why it is giving me int? Because I have typecasted it, int, then in brackets, then 5. So that was the concept of typecasting. That is why actually I had to write int input here, because input, this function by default takes integer, by default takes string as an input, this string that is in double quotations, but I wanted to perform here arithmetic operations, right? So you see all the things are getting connected, but that because I wanted to perform arithmetic operation, I had to typecast it into an integer or a float or whatever. Okay, so but what if I write 5.7 here? Like, very interesting question, right? You'll not get. So the type will be obviously integer only, or it is an error. Why? Because int with base 10. Yes, that is why I was telling, because at is a float, right? It is a float, so that is why the things are getting messed up. Means if I write only 5.7 here, I'm telling in a detail, so if you are thinking it somewhat complex, it's okay, it will benefit you in the future. So class is float now, simply. But what if I typecast this float directly into an integer? Then what should happen? Actually it will give me class int only. No, I don't want type, actually I want to print x. Type will be int obviously, because it is typecasted to int. See, it gave me 5 and not 5.7. Why? Because it typecasted it into an integer, and the integer value of 5.7 is 5. How? Let's say I have a decimal 7.42, whatever, 7.42. So the integer value of this 7.42 or this float is only 7. Okay, so this, so if I write 7.2, and now if I print x, see, it gave me 7 because it is an integer, means it got typecasted into an integer, right? So I'll revise today's lecture, what actually we did, actually some previous lecture as well. So we did print up till now, some concept of variables used to store values, then comments which will be ignored by our program, then multi-line comments. If we had multiple lines which are to be ignored by the program, then we use multi-line comments, and we enclose it in 3 triple single quotes. Triple single quotes means 3 single quotes, like that. Assignment operator, plus minus times divide, then modulo operator gives the remainder. Then we study data types such as integer, float, string, list data type. We'll come into list data type in upcoming lectures. But you also studied the concept of input. By default this input takes the string value, so we have to typecast it into an integer to perform basic arithmetic operations, right? So also we concluded it with the concept of data types along with typecasting. So this data type is float, for example. I have converted into an integer. How do we convert it? By writing int, and then inside the double parenthesis means opening and closing parenthesis, we write the value which we want to typecast it. So can we typecast an integer into a string? Means we typecasted the string into an integer, a float into an integer. Can the reverse happen? Obviously it can happen, and we'll see in the upcoming lectures as well. But for now, this was the summary of today's lecture and the previous lecture as well. So thank you, and we'll meet in the next lecture. Bye bye.